Just to let everyone know, there will be refreshments in the ballroom after the session at 2 p.m.
Practice. Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. So we're going to get started, and I know people will probably trickle in because we had lunch, and everyone wants to do the presentation right after lunch. I've heard that's the best time slot. Just kidding. We're going to have a lot of fun today. So hi, everyone. My name is Megan Smart. I'm a senior scientist at the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. And today you guys picked the best room because we're going to have so much fun and talk about one of my favorite subjects, community science and education. Woo! Okay, we're going to bring that energy, guys. So is anyone here from Arizona besides Len? Okay, so for those of you who aren't, Arizona does have water. We do. We have over 100,000 stream miles in the state, over 257 lakes, only 2 of which are natural, by the way, and we have over 870 square miles. And like many entities in this room, we don't always have enough staff on hand at ADEQ to sample and collect all the data that we want to collect. Who in this room has all the data you could possibly need to make informed decisions? Raise your hand. Right, yeah, okay. So what do we do? Community science to the rescue. Oops. So it's this idea that there are people out there that want to help, and they can help if they're given the proper resources and time and training. So in 2017, we started our first community science program at ADEQ called Arizona Water Watch. And so today I'm going to talk to you about that program and then talk about how we're expanding on that program. Hi, you guys, welcome. Lots of seats up front. So in Arizona, we have a credible data rule that says if we're going to use data to make regulatory decisions for our statewide assessment, for example, they need to have a sample plan, a quality assurance plan, an annual training, and an audit. And then we can use that data. So that goes for USGS data as well as community science data. So here, you guys didn't know you were going to get the secret recipe to save the world today, but you are. It's really easy. If you can find the volunteers, and when I say volunteers, it means anyone doing extra work with their time. So we partner with Forest Service staff, and they will be considered volunteers if they're helping collect water quality data. It's in addition to their job duties. And those people have time, and you're give them the tools, those resources, the scientific equipment. Then that's how we save the world. Okay, here we go. So in 2017, I had the honor of starting this program, Arizona Water Watch. So the first thing I did was sat down and made a roadmap, like many of us do when we're starting new programs. So here I am, and I was like, you know what? We need field forms. I mean, this is very logical. We're going to need some type of handbook that's not just a scientific handbook, right? We have to make science approachable. We're going to need a website. We're going to need some video lessons and then a sample plan template. And then I threw in an app because why not? Everyone has an app. We need training. We're going to figure out some in-person field audits. And then once we do all these things, it's going to be like that baseball movie, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And it works. Okay, so we talked about the credible data component, which is a big aspect of what my job is, right? Make sure that data lives. Lots of people are collecting data, and if that data lives on a piece of paper or on one person's desktop, that data is dead. And so we owe it to each other, we owe it to the world, we owe it to our volunteers to make sure that that data lives on, meaning it's QA/QC'd and put into a water quality database and shared with EPA so that anyone in the public can get access to it. But here are some other things that we use. Is this? Oh yeah, no, okay, no pointer, that's okay, I'm a pointer. We use things like visually friendly guides. So think about new staff of where your entities, where you're working, or think about volunteers. If we can make cheat sheets, you reduce errors, right? If I say, Arizona water dogs, can you please collect a full chemistry sample? This is what I mean. And you need 40 drops of nitric acid for this one and 80 drops of sulfuric acid, right? It's just making visually friendly field for or guides. And then this is an example of the field form. And I brought a laminated copy in case you guys wanted to see. You guys, this is the same data that internal staff collect, but this one looks fun. You guys, science is fun. Who agrees with that? Please raise your hand. Woo! Okay. Science is fun. When we built this program, I really had in mind to make it for fourth graders to retirees. So implementing other visual tools like this, processing tools. Does anyone in this room sample E. coli and process E. coli? Got a few people. Okay. So if we're teaching a fourth grader or an 83-year-old, until you do it repetitively, this processing mat's laminated. It goes by your sealer and your incubator, and it tells you the step-by-step. Hey, don't forget to turn the sealer on. Put your gloves on here. Go ahead and put your Sharpie here, your media here, and your bottle here, and then goes through the steps. Oh, and then this is going to pop up. This is an example of our handbook where we're labeling the different components of a multi-parameter probe so that when something happens, and yes, the volunteers do text me on Saturdays, they have the right word to ask for what the problem is so we can help problem solve. Any questions, or are we good? Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to get to it, and I'm so excited because you guys, we're going to die soon, is really how I think about it. Not in a sad way, in a way that we have to build off of one another. And anything that you see here today, I will send you. You can take off DEQ, Arizona Water Watch, put on your own stuff, because we have to save the world. Yes. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. For TikTok? Oh, the video lessons. Yeah. So right now they're all in English, but where we're going forward right now, all materials will be in English and Spanish. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, I do chicken scratches for our communications team, and then they produce the videos. So it's again relying on talents within our department. I see what you're saying. I make all of the other stuff by myself, but I don't know how to make the videos either. So maybe we should make a video on how to make a video. So we can all do that. Yeah. Maybe I can ask our communications team for that. I kind of like that idea. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so for those that just joined, to catch you up, community science is going to save the world. We're going to talk about some resources. We're sticking to water right now, and then we're going to dive into some other subjects. So Arizona Water Watch, these are kind of some of the things that we're doing, and I'm not trying to bore you. I just want to give you guys ideas and inspiration, hopefully, for your realm of work. So within water quality, volunteer data, we use it for listing. So we can list streams as impaired, or we can delist streams. We can also list them as attaining. They help us with data gaps. If we need one more pH to fully assess a water body ID, they can help us collect that data. Let's say someone did some amazing work and you need effectiveness monitoring after that work. Sometimes we don't have the resources to stay and gather data, after many years. And so the local community can help with that. We've also worked on intermittent streams using game cameras, which is one of my favorite things. So it takes a picture a day and there's flow or there's not. We have leveraged, we've partnered with cities. So the city of Buckeye, for example, for their MS4 stormwater permit, they had visual requirements. Well, this could be applied for them too. Like, how can we keep sharing with the tools that we're using? We do a lot of wet dry mapping, and I'll talk a little bit about this more, but for Arizona, we don't know around 80% of our flow regimes in the state. We know we are really good at the perennial systems. We're not as good at the intermittent or ephemeral. And so wet dry mapping is huge so that we can apply a flow regime to apply standards to protect the stream and save the world. You're gonna get the theme. And here's that app I was talking about. We're gonna dive into this, but it's a 3-minute quick app where they could take a picture if a stream is wet or dry. But the other components that we use with this is for harmful algal blooms. If someone takes a picture of a HABs, that's going directly internally with the lat long, the picture is going to our HABs coordinator, our drinking water source folks, and our community science team. Leveraging technology, we really focus on Survey 123. It's a very powerful tool. So think about it. We don't have enough data for everything, right? There's an army of people out there that if you can build something to help answer the questions you guys need, you can really make it useful and work for you. Another example for the app is, and we're going to go into it a little bit, is fish kills. So when that happens, then we contact our game and fish department right away. Pollution identification. Did you guys know that there's sewage sniffing dogs? It is so cool. So we've done it a few ways. So if we have an impaired water, for example, for E. coli, we don't necessarily know the source. We've done ship and sniff because that's an adorable name, right? Where you collect your samples and then you send it to them and then they run their tests. But we've also flown the dogs out and we've walked Oak Creek, if anyone's been to Sedona, some places in Prescott. And the dog is amazing. So if they smell human sewage, they bow down. It is. And so that doesn't help fix the problem, but it helps you maybe pinpoint or identify you're drilling into the E. coli impairment. Protecting, oh, yeah. They can pick up the smallest amount. They can't, the study doesn't show like what MPN level, but they can just any hint, human, and they'll bow down. Dogs are amazing. I think we'll also agree on that today too, right? Again, leveraging different types of, technology or different ways to apply science to help get us to a better answer. So where the dogs were hitting, then we start to look, are there septic issues? Or it helps inform other options. For protecting human health, Butcher Jones, Slide Rock State Park, Fossil Creek, we're going to go into these a little bit more because again, we can't be out there sampling all the time when the public might be swimming. And if you have a large body of water, California, Great Lakes, you guys get extra money for a little bit more of these recreational kind of sampling. In Arizona, we don't necessarily have that, so we rely heavily on community science. And then they can do a little bit of stormwater sampling we've had. Not that safety is the number one important thing for community scientists, but they can help let us know if a stream is flowing, or they can, we have reach pools and stuff, and they can help us collect data. And then last thing we'll talk about, and we'll go into a little more detail, is just trash cleanups. And this was kind of implemented through a Keep America Beautiful grant to just start us off. And this happened right before COVID, and it was the best thing we could have added to the program because they could do it in their little pods and people were just dying to get out, right, and connect with nature. So a little bit, we'll dive into some of this. Okay, folks, this is where you hang on to your seats so you don't fall off. Okay, the Arizona Water Watch volunteers have collected over 180,000 water quality records since 2017. Thank you. Whoa, yeah, this is all them. They've removed over 70,000 or 75,000 pounds of trash. They've submitted over 2,600 Arizona Water Watch app submissions, 277 wet dry mapping events, and have volunteered over 42,000 hours of their time since 2017. And I do a mic drop, but I'd be afraid to break it. So just pretend. Whoa, okay. So this is the power. This saves DEQ, if we want to look at it from a regulatory or an entity perspective, over $5 million. So that's how I justify my program. I make data live, I create relationships and allies all across the state, and we bring in a lot of data. So now we're going to deep dive into some of these apps. And just like we talked about again, if you're interested in any of these, I will give you the coding. You guys probably have access to GIS and Esri. You can have the coding, remove Arizona Water Watch, and put in whatever you want. So we talked about the Arizona Water Watch app. The next few screens, I'll show you a little bit more about what that means. It's 3 minutes. It's kind of meant more for the crowdsourcing. Those are for your hikers or just people out and about that can collect high-level flow regime data, HABs data, fish kill data. Then we have our trash cleanup. We are diving into this a little bit more because now we're doing trash transect data. The idea here is, how do we change human behavior? Trash is a human issue, right? How do we change that behavior? And you need the data to do that. Then for the trained volunteers, we have our mobile app. So this is how they are giving us their water quality data. And in here, because Survey 123 is amazing, you can put in QA/QC components. So for example, for E. coli, if their duplicate sample isn't within the 95% confidence interval, it's already flagged, and then it's going to go into our database and up to EPA's database and say, this is rejected, we can't use it. And that's a part of community science. They understand that we can't use all their data. And then we have our wet-dry mapping app, and was okay. This one was the early one. We're again building out. This one does kind of dot locations, like it's wet right here, it's wet right here. The next app I'll show you guys is we're trying to do the segments. It's like Esri was catching up the technology. So by the time they're done walking a reach, well, first of all, it shows them what a reach is because most volunteers don't understand. You can't see it that way. It shows them where to walk, and then it gives them the % wet right when they're done. That's powerful. And then they have changes over time. Okay, so this is kind of just a deep dive into that quick Arizona Water Watch 3-minute app. So it takes about 3 minutes. We only do yes/no questions. There's photos and comments. This is a quick one for those crowdsourcing folks. We've had it put into libraries so that people can download it. Is it a lake or a stream? Has it rained? Here's some pictures you get. Are there signs of animals? What kind? Is there an algal bloom? If you press yes here, you get more questions. And like I said, this automatically goes to internal staff right away. Some folks don't understand a blue-green algae, microcystin HABs, right? Versus just some lovely cladophora, and that's okay. We see the picture, we're able to kind of understand that that's not a problem. Here's an example of the trash, another fun field form. The only app, so I say app, but really the Arizona Water Watch app is the only true app. They're all built in Survey 123, but you have a web browser component. So it mirrors, like you can have it on your phone, but also on the computer. Most volunteers are still using the forms and then inputting the data when they get back. If you're 83, you don't love technology. That's not true, not all, but some, right? And so they're using the forms still and taking pictures before and after. We're estimating weight. We're trying to get information like glass, because on Forest Service land, you're not supposed to have glass, so just trying to figure out what data other people need as well. And then I just wanted to point out this amazing, they have picked up 650 pounds of feces, like human and dog feces. And just to put that in perspective, I had to Google this, but that's the size of a baby grand piano of poop, you guys. So these volunteers are beyond dedicated. This is an example of the wet-dry mapping, and here's a picture of kind of the cartoon video lesson. Like, all of these have a cartoon video lesson, a reference guide or handbook, and then a fun field form. So this would be considered another crowdsourcing. You don't necessarily have to talk to me to come do it, but doesn't this look fun? You guys want to go wet-dry mapping, right? Yeah, look, it's wet and it's dry. Wet-dry mapping is great for kind of a bio blitz event where you want to get lots of people out. You can divide up a water body. It's not technically difficult. And again, we have a fun field form to gather the data. We have put this into library kits. That's all I have to say about that. But here is the new wet dry mapping. This one will roll out soon. Right now it's beta testing. But like I said before, the old point data, which is still valuable, it's wet here, it's wet here. Now this will give you your segment. And then at the end of it, on the back in the dashboard, it tells you the percent wet. So if you wet dry map, say you spent all day volunteering, you could find out this stream segment is 80% wet. That is valuable information. And then you compare that with events and changes over time. So to give you the full effect, I also want to show you guys. For this, we are using Survey 123, but we're also using a cousin product of Esri called Quick Capture. Has anyone here used that? That's okay. But it's a big button app. It's okay if you can't see this, just see big buttons. Yeah. But not only that, it tells you. So imagine you're, an 83-year-old again, and you're not quite sure if you press the button or not. Check this out.
Start and stop line capture.
So then you have to walk. It won't let you record unless you move around. And so I picked that I'm collecting a wet segment. This is a wiggly stream over here, guys.
And start and stop line capture.
And then it lets them know that they've stopped it. And then they might do the dry part. So again, it's like trying to meet folks where they are and leverage technology. I'm glad that worked because sometimes live demos don't. Okay, we talked a little bit about the community science forum again. Once they start collecting data and we help pay for that data, some groups are paying for it themselves. That's where the QA/QC process really kicks in. With volunteer data, we are very protective over it. It is just as valuable. They can do just what I'm doing when I'm out there as a scientist collecting data. We just have to prove that it's true for both of us. And you'll be happy to know that internal staff is now following this process, and community science did it first. Woo! Okay. Believe it or not, people would like to get their data out if they put data in, right? And that's part of the volunteer feedback loop. We can't just ask and not give, right? So we just used, again, an Esri product. You can make a hub. It's really easy. And I can make this, and we just link all of the different opportunities, and then they can pull their data out. But it is exactly as it's put in. So we still say, go to the EPA water quality portal because that's where all the QA/QC and flagging is done. Another component of community science is gratitude, right? These people have volunteered all of those hours and they picked up a baby grand piano size of poo. So we don't have tons of funding, but what I try to do is handwritten thank you notes. We hand make buttons each year. And now, since COVID, before they used to love kind of physical certificates. And I think they're now moving more towards digital. They don't really want things, which is cool. We're exploring the ideas of badges and how we can help lift their knowledge and education if they're interested. I mean, a lot of them have been volunteering for quite some time now. Okay, here is the toolkit. And I think these presentations will be made publicly available, but up there's your download, and then you get the access to all the GIS coding right from that URL. So if you didn't want to talk to me but wanted to just use the coding, you're welcome to, although I'd love to chat still. So for field forms, the E. coli processing mat, any of that, reach out to me and I'll happy to send it to you. I'm a Canva ninja, that's what I use. So if you have a Canva account, it works out well. Okay, another big component of community science is at the national landscape, right? So for the National Water Quality Monitoring Conference, we have a volunteer work group where we, at the conference every 2 years, we get together, we share tips and tricks, we do webinars. So community science for water has kind of been happening longer than air or land, and I see the movement now changing. Okay, I thought we'd dive into some example projects. So here we are, Butcher Jones. This is at Saguaro Lake. It's a lovely, remember we only have 2 natural lakes in Arizona, so this is actually a reservoir. But this is like our beach. This is where the kids go, look, you can make a sand castle in the sand right here. The problem is we don't have a lot of flow here and it gets warm. So what also likes to live in warm, low flow conditions? Yeah, and bacteria, all the things, all waterborne diseases. But we also have these beautiful horses. They're wild horses, and they are protected by the governor. So what we noticed is the horses poop, and then everyone is walking through the poop and going into the water, or the kayaks, the stand-up paddle boards, all the things. And so we keep having E. coli exceedance, E. coli exceedance. And when I say E. coli, that's just what we use for waterborne disease indicator. So the power of community science, the story I wanted to share is that by partnering, it's not through the actual data that was collected. The MPN number wasn't the thing that fixed this problem. It was the collaboration of the Forest Service, the Friends of the Tonto as a community science group to collect the data, find the problem, and then working with horse advocacy groups who say, we see that this is a problem, and we also really love these horses. So they get up every day and clean up the poop on the beach. And now we don't have any more exceedances. Again, mic drop. Because that's just the power of being human and making connections, right? Which is the biggest component of a community science program. I wanted to talk a little bit about a really fun project we did on Fossil Creek with microbial source tracking. So again, Fossil Creek, we've sampled with volunteers. It's epically beautiful, by the way. It's that quintessential turquoise with the travertine substrate. There's waterfalls. There's like a gorgeous riparian corridor. It's highly recreated because of that, and it is overloved, I'll say. So we've had volunteers collect data. We have over 2,000 records. And in 2021, that reach was listed as impaired for E. coli again. Loved to death, as we say. But then this amazing thing happened called the backbone fire, which most people wouldn't say amazing. But what it did for us was the Forest Service shut it down and then allowed the community scientists and scientists in to collect data. Okay, let's just geek out about that real quick. You have a highly recreated stream that is now closed to the public, and we get to collect background data. Okay, I guess I'm easily excited. I was losing my mind. So we started the microbial source tracking, which is looking at the DNA of the E. coli to figure out what are we seeing. And then we actually delisted it in 2021 with all of the data. Let's look at the microbial source tracking. So Fossil Creek is flowing this way. We had 6 of the highly recreated sites. They sampled monthly. As a DEQ employee, there is no way we could send someone out there every single month. Tell them I say hi. Just kidding. And actually what we found under no recreational conditions is that we weren't exceeding. Our state standard is 235 colony forming units per 100 mils. We weren't exceeding, although we had some peaking, and that's due to monsoons. This is a typical pattern we see. And then our results were, we had some beaver hits for the microbial source tracking, some canine, and what we couldn't actually understand, and this is at the bridge site kind of over here, was pig. We do not have pigs running around at Fossil Creek. So we know that this science isn't perfect yet. We're not sure if it's hitting on javelina, which are 4-chambered, whereas pigs are monogastric 1-chamber. But we know at least that right now we're not seeing humans over and over and over again. So we're going to do it again in a few years with the same volunteers and partners under open rec conditions, which I guess I'll just have to come back and tell you guys, but it'll be really exciting as well. Oh, a year or two, because this is a great question. Thank you for asking. They opened it back up, but people didn't know that it was quite open. So we weren't getting the full impacts of open recreation. And then the Forest Service kind of kept closing it during monsoons, or because they were worried about the fire, or like roads washing out and other safety issues. So it was hard. We're waiting a full year to make sure that it's open. So we get that true. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And we love to see that. I just don't want to see human or dogs. I want to see everything else. Yeah. And then we'll use a lot of our community science data for TMDLs. In fact, where we have community science groups already, the TMDLs can happen faster, right? Because the data is available. And we can do loading curves and everything because we already have the data. These are just some examples. This is Fossil Creek, by the way. Isn't she beautiful? Yeah. Aravaipa, oh, also beautiful. See, I told you Arizona had water. So we have delisted, a lot of streams. Sometimes it can't be for every parameter. Sometimes we're only just delisting for dissolved oxygen or whatever it is. And then those volunteers might list it again because as we know, Mother Nature ebbs and flows, and we're just there gathering the data. Okay, this is the sewage sniffing dog, adorable. And then I just wanted to give you an example. These were all the locations where the dog bowed down. And so we collected the E. coli sample and then turned the sample in. What this does, this can't be used for regulatory purposes, but it allowed us to find there's a bridge that we kept getting hits on, and we actually think that we found a cattle operation that's kind of further up top that we didn't necessarily look at, and so we think that that's what's happening. So again, you're just using the data to help inform decisions. This is the City of Buckeye example we talked about, where they were using their time-lapse cameras to meet their visual requirements per their permit. But then they also got to learn more about their city, like how the bobcats and javelina, and particularly the coyotes, use the underground stormwater drains as highways, basically to get from different places. It was fascinating. Pictures say 1,000 words. We use certain apps. It could be, this one was the Arizona Water Watch app, just that 3-minute app. Does anyone remember what I call WOTUS hell? It was the Navigable Water Protection Rule. Well, that regulation under the Trump administration was really going to do a lot of harm to Arizona streams because it said if you have an ephemeral segment, you're going to disconnect the regulation from anything above that. Well, we have a lot of intermittents and ephemerals. So this was the Hassayampa, which means upside down river, and we asked the volunteers to help us collect that data to make sure it wasn't ephemeral. This was manipulated by our county, so we couldn't get the riparian vegetation that we needed, and the macrophytes weren't there, the macroinvertebrates weren't there, so we had to do it by pictures. But look at this, and that is a lot of water coming through. Okay, now, last year, I went to management and said, hey guys, it's working for water. What are we doing? We need to expand this to air and land, because oftentimes volunteers care about more than one media, right? You don't just care about water, you care about all of the components. And so I'm pleased to report that we are now retiring Arizona Water Watch. My heart's a little bit sad, but we are now Arizona Community Science Alliance. Yes. And what a wild ride this has been. Okay, so just like before, I copied my plan. Here I am, but now it's not 2017, it's 2023. What are we going to do? You know what? Let's add some K through 12 curriculum. Let's update our GIS infrastructure. Ideally, where I'd like to go is there's one app that you press and then everything's in there and you can press whatever you're doing instead of downloading all the different surveys. We got to work smarter, not harder, right, friends? We needed a new website. We needed a new name. We're going to add education and outreach to all of DEQ, because while some of us scientists are able to talk to the public, others might not be able to. And so trying to help them about how to do that. We're going to add community science opportunities for air, water, waste. And then we're going to teach the others. And then again, just the field of dreams is coming into play. If you build it, they will come and you save the world. It is that, but it's a little bit harder. So here's our fancy new website. And we have all of the opportunities listed. This is my colleague, Audrey. She's amazing, and she's helping take over the stream portion. And just wanted to point out, if you guys want to watch a really fun, hokey car salesman type pitch. We did a video and we just won the ECOS Award, so Environmental Council of the States, for this program. So thank you. And I say this because I hope to just get the word out there. Everyone, you guys, please harness community science. I will help you with whatever you need, but this has got to be the answer. And so I'm hoping the more that we can get this out at a national landscape, international landscape, again, we'll save the world. So this was our first air quality project. So I learned a lot because I'm a water person. So we had a certain location in Cottonwood where we might have had some air. Reached out to some of the water volunteers, again, learning that volunteers care about more than one media. And again, we create visually friendly cheat sheet guides on how to do this. We made a training video, but they collected over 1,600 records, PM10, and metal samples. They're logging it into their air quality folks survey 123. They're following their COC. We're doing all the things. This is the same data, again, that internal water or air quality staff collect. They even got to climb this really cool trailer, which had me nervous, and they did great though. And then at the end of this project, we had a thank you breakfast. Remember, with community science, you have to close that feedback loop. It's really important to express gratitude, which I have a feeling most of the people in the room already know that, but sometimes we have to say it. This is an example of an air pocket lab lesson. So now this is not necessarily community science, this is education. But what if we taught our young to care about the air too, which air is harder because you can't necessarily see it. So what we're doing here is we're leveraging this really cool, has anyone seen one of these? Okay, it's really great for education. I'm sorry I had to fly here and I didn't want to, but basically this device, we have it paired up with a purple air monitor, which is a community science project, for schools in Mexico and in Southern Arizona so that they can share data and see how their schools might be a little bit different. But these devices, you can kick in the dirt and you can see the PM 2.5 or 10 kind of go up. You can sing into it. You can see your CO2 go up. It's the idea of like giving them something in their hand so they can make some connection to air. And then we worked with this amazing teacher, and she helped us create the lesson plan and tie it to state standards. Because does anyone have any teacher friends, or are you a teacher? Okay, you're a teacher or a friend? Okay, yeah. So my sister is an environmental high school teacher at a high school. She cries a lot. I mean, you guys, I wish we could give them all the money, and they're doing such amazing work. But if we can make science easier for them, and environmental science specifically, and tie it to state standards, that's one less thing they have to do. We're already linking it for them, and they can easily add it to their curriculum. Again, this is all available too if you want to steal it. We are updating our flag program. Our air quality flag program is kind of an outreach and education opportunity. And before we've had this, but it was only focused on schools. Now we're kind of raising it out to libraries, county buildings, any business, and tribes that are within the area. I just want to talk about the fellowship again. So here is a secret, another secret of life. Go to conferences, go to meetings, and talk to people because your life is forever changed. One example was having a hallway conversation with an ASU professor. He's like, yeah, I got so much money from Washington and I'm paying they had 100 teachers to create curriculum on STEM. He's like, would you like 10 of them? I mean, would I like 10 teachers? Yes. So we partnered throughout the year, and what happened was it was a symbiotic relationship where I got to give them professional development hours. I took them out. We went to a composting heap and we went to an advanced water purification and saw that process plant. We went to recycling, and then here we did some macroinvertebrate work. And then they took what they learned from work that we do at ADEQ, and then they created the curriculum. I mean, yay, teachers again. And then this is what some of our internal outreach is looking like. Again, Canva, Ninja, if you guys are interested in this, I will also share it. But as we're going out to Earth Day events or STEM events or all the things that we get called to do, if we can make this checklist for internal staff so they know how to do it, and then there's like a little lesson of showing them how to do it. Like, oh, quick water filtration or watershed model. Like kids love when you bring out coffee grounds and you make a little cow poop and then add it, put water. I mean, it's the best. So just like helping others to share that information. And then here's an example of Girl Scout troop. I don't know, if you build it, they will come. That's my best advice. It's not scientific. Here, these were exchange students that someone knew, and then we brought them down to our lab. This guy was super excited about E. coli. Okay, so what's next? And then I'm gonna open it up for questions. How are we on time? 5 minutes? 7 minutes. Okay, we're doing this great, guys. No one's even crying yet. So the next plan is I am working on a 5-year strategic plan for our executive leadership team. And of course, it's visually friendly because who wants lots of words? No one. And so what we're trying to do here is that, like anything in life, if you can find the people with a plan and the passion and the vision, magic's gonna happen. So we're gonna, we've got some things coming down the line, like an eco blitz. We're gonna add, that'll be another app. Like how can we have community scientists help us collect riparian data, macroinvertebrate data? It's a lot of just matching up pictures. They can do that. And also then how about we layer in some curriculum? Ooh, so now we're expanding even more. Composting is coming. It's not necessarily that composting is community science, but what if it is? The only thing that you really need to do to make it community science is gather data. And what's that data telling us? That's data, or that's food not being put into a landfill, right? So that's valuable. So trying to put little kits together again for people to check out. We're adding groundwater currently right now as a community science project, lakes, pollution source identification, smoke surveys. If there's a wildfire, which way is the smoke going? We're streamlining data processing. We'd love to add a binational community science, so Mexico into Arizona. And then here, I'm almost done. I'm going to open it up to question. Here's the big dream. What if we lived in a world where we had libraries? You like it? Libraries. Okay, I like it. If we had libraries all over a state, all over the nation, where people had access, EJ communities, tribes, everyone had access to scientific data, because not everyone has $5,000 for a probe. And then they could also have curriculum activities, those teachers and everything. That would be the dream. Then you have community science, you have education. We're creating and fostering youth to care and be good environmental stewards. We're enabling those concerned about environmental topics to actually do and take action and collect data. So I leave you with this question. How are you guys going to leverage community science, creativity, thinking outside the box for your programs? And thank you for your time. And questions? Yeah.
My question is,
This is a great question. So I am trying to get in with the tribes. And what I've learned is I'm trying to just make those relationships to start off with. 0. And we're trying. If anyone has any secrets, I would love to. That's why I'm here today. Yes, I've got a taker. I think the best thing that I can do too is I want to be respectful of data and stuff. That's why I'm trying to offer the coding and the resources for folks. But I would love to chat if you have ideas. Yeah, and that's why I came here today. For that very reason, I wanted to get this word out and make that connection.
Hi, Megan. Thank you so much for your talk today. I'm a huge proponent of community science and trying to build out programs within the California State Water Board. And my question is kind of similar to what you were saying about respect of data sovereignty. So I'm curious if you despite not having tribes engaged with your programs yet. I'm curious if you have any philosophies about how to protect tribal data sovereignty, especially as we're moving towards more open data models, which is a good thing, but you also want to have that, protective element.
Yep. To piggyback off both of them, I think the best thing that I can do right now, or the way that I see it, is to leverage the tools. And so give them the ownership, help them create their own groups, give them access to current volunteers that are already sampling that might help train on tribal lands or might be allowed to collect that data and then just share it. I think we would keep it separate until they wanted to share. Mm-hmm. And the other part of that is that we all know here, Mother Nature doesn't care about boundaries. That stream that goes through many places, that airshed. So they would have access to all the data that other volunteers have collected as well.
Hi, I'm Sarah with the Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians over in California, and I love your presentation. And I think the slides where you showed, we were able to collect, or these many streams have been delisted, and we found these sources of pollution, and now that's been fixed. I mean, that's the main reason why I think we're doing water quality monitoring. And when tribes submit their data to the Water Quality Exchange and put it in as preliminary and not final, that means that, none of this information can get used to do, like over in California, used during the review of whether the uses are impaired because of various pollution. And so I know with like Big Valley, we're on Clear Lake, the largest natural lake in California. We do the cyanotoxin monitoring program. All of that goes in, and it has led to the lake being listed for that. And all sorts of things have come from, making that data available. I do know that tribes have to go through a lot of hoops with quality assurance plans. And when you're talking about citizen science, it doesn't seem to have as much, requirements for data quality. So I'm glad to see that you have like manuals and pictorial things to make sure that everybody is doing it correctly. Because when you've got approved water quality or QAPs, then that data is going to be more rigorous. And at least in California, they won't use our data unless we have quality assurance plans. So I want to make sure that tribal data, if it is submitted, that it gets seen at the high level that it is, because of all of the how rigorous it is to even be able to collect and submit data.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Let's touch on QAPs real fast, because volunteers would rather poke their eye out with a pencil than write a QAP. Maybe all of us would. But it is a really key component of the credible data. So whenever I'm building anything, even if it's the composting, the groundwater, I start with the regulations, state regulations, and then you build out the program from that, because we have to be able to follow the rules in order for the data to be used. Volunteers don't want to just volunteer. They want their data to be used. Yes, I think we have like 1 more minute, so.
Hi, Jean. I work with the Rincon Tribe. Thank you. This is a really awesome program. I was wondering, who does the volunteer coordination, and about how much effort and time is that? Because if you have a large amount of, do you have your own staff member? Or?
Yeah, let's talk about reality, and I'll switch. It was me for years, one person show. Hi, I'm Megan. And then when I moved up to try and build out to the other programs, we have Audrey, even partial time. So here's the team. They're all partial time. It's all partial. But we have to almost prove that it works. And then next year, I hope to get funding. You come in with a strategic plan. You show them the power. $5 million saved to DEQ or your entity you can quantify, that is your power. And it takes time. Like I said, started this in 2017, and now I have maybe a half person total. No, maybe 75% of a full person help. So all the volunteer coordination and stuff is me. And my kids help me make buttons and cookies and thank you gifts for the volunteers. So it does take a lot of time. Last question, and then we'll end.
Yeah, hi, John Katz from US EPA, and just fascinated by the range of data your volunteers collect. And I'm curious, like when I noticed that they can identify trash in the waterways. do you ever have them break that down to, what are they finding most, like they do with the beach cleanups, like X number of cigarette butts, X number of plastic versus single-use plastic serviceware versus plastic bottles? Do they break it down to that level? And is that data available?
So we are just rolling this out soon. It's almost like I planted this question, but I didn't.
We've never met, everybody.
We've
I just
never
want you to
met.
know I'm not a paid,
So we call that so you've got the trash cleanup, that's your crowdsourcing, easy, right? And then we're adding trash transects. And again, this data form, I know it's hard to see in the back, but it is very specific. Styrofoam cup, like maybe is it a Circle K polar cup? And the idea is like, if you can drill down to the data with informed data, then you can change and make decisions that way. So maybe we go to the Circle K and try and work out a plan, or if it's Taco Bell packets, you go to Taco Bell and say, hey, instead of 10, maybe people only really want 2. So we're going there, and then I'd be happy to share the data. All of this is publicly available if anyone's interested. I know EPA is working on a trash map, which would be fascinating to plug into that. Okay, I think we're out of time. Thank you for coming. Have a lovely conference. I appreciate you all.
There will be refreshments in the ballroom. If you guys are interested, there's going to be some brownies and stuff. So head over to the ballroom if you're hungry.